What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back to offer a very enthusiastic but also spoiler-free review for The Accountant Part 2. It doesn't come out until April 25th. However, because today was tax day, they decided to mark the occasion or celebrate the occasion by releasing The Accountant 2 in a few early access screenings. I saw it in Dolby. Great format. I prefer IMAX, but Dolby's pretty goddamn good as well. And I was not alone in my enthusiastic reaction. The crowd was laughing and getting into it, and they're having a legitimate emotional response to the camaraderie and basically the buddy movie at the core of The Accountant 2, and that is the real secret sauce. Because while John Bernthal was used really well in the first movie, he's given a more prominent role this time around. And I love buddy movies, whether you're talking about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or Lethal Weapon or Rush Hour. I mean, take your pick of from any decade, the great buddy movies. It's a great format and underutilized these days. And John Bernthal and Ben Affleck, they work so well together that people are going to start screaming for them to team up more often as opposed to Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
So it's been a minute. Braxton, thank you for coming. I'm really glad you're here. Did she tell you to say that? Yeah.
And the chemistry between Ben Affleck and John Bernthal is so good that I think the movie's at its best when it kind of veers away from the plot, and it does veer away from the plot here and there. Perhaps the movie's a little bit on the long side. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes, but very enjoyable throughout. But it takes until about the middle third before the kettle starts to boil over, because this movie has generous quantities of action and violence and some pretty horrific R-rated action. You know, if you're sensitive to blood, gore, dismemberment, stabbings, etc., The Accountant Part 2 might be a tough sit for you. But in addition to the fantastic action and all the great choreography, it's really well choreographed and very well photographed action, but there's a ton of humor. I was laughing my ass off throughout, and I was not alone. That the audience was roaring with thunderous approval. They were cracking up. And while it was annoying that they were doing so, I could tell the audience was getting into the more emotional aspects of the movie, because they were screaming out in protest when characters were in danger. Once again, it's a TV screen or it's a movie screen. You don't need to talk to it. It makes you sound like a fucking crazy person. However, it is a good sign that people care about these characters, because Ben Affleck and John Bernthal, they inject a ton of heart without it becoming sweet and sentimental. I can't stand movies that are cute. I can't stand movies that are fun. No fun for me. I don't like having fun. I like movies that are intense and thrilling and, whatever word you can think of apart from fun. But if you have generous quantities of action, comedy, and sex appeal, well, then you're doing something right. But if you're wondering why I object to the word fun when it comes to describing movies, it's because when I lived in LA, I just knew way too many people who would say a movie was fun when what they really meant was the movie fucking sucks, but it's really commercial. So I just always feel like the word fun is code for something else. But getting back to The Accountant 2, it's a very good time at the movies, and that should come as no surprise to anybody, because Gavin O'Connor has been kind of secretly, quietly cranking out good movies over the years. Back in 2011, Gavin O'Connor directed Warrior, which I think is one of the best movies about MMA. Admittedly, that's kind of weak praise, because the list of good movies about MMA is very short, apart from a few good documentaries. But if you're going to start somewhere with a movie about MMA, it's trying to be the Rocky of MMA. It doesn't quite get there, but it's got a good performance by Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte and that sort of thing. But then somehow I just missed The Accountant the first time through when it came out in 2016. I have no idea why, because I'd already started a podcast in 2014, started the YouTube channel in 2016, but for whatever reason, I was just oblivious. I had no idea that The Accountant had even come out until I saw the trailer for The Accountant 2. I was like, fuck it, all right, I'll watch The Accountant. And I liked it. I mean, The Accountant, I'd say it's better than a solid action movie, not quite an exceptional action movie, but thoroughly enjoyable and well worth watching. And I always like it when you have a character where, I'm not going to say the accountant is like a superhero, but he does have some parallels with the superhero genre in the sense that he's got very special skills, where he's a high-functioning autistic individual, where he's really good at math, really good at accounting, really good at puzzle solving, but like any good superhero, he has his kryptonite. And his kryptonite is he has these fits. If you don't allow him to finish the puzzle that he's working on, he might have a full-blown meltdown. He doesn't like that one bit. And it's also awkward for him to engage with people on a human level. Eye contact is tough, or expressing concern about their behalf or their feelings is tough. It's just not how his brain works. But I like that. He's got some strengths, he's got some weaknesses, and when push comes to shove, he's got some badass fucking martial arts as well as some really good marksmanship skills in his back pocket. But when they unleash John Bernthal, who doesn't really have special skills, he's just got that ruthless aggression and horrific brutality in his back pocket. When they team up, this movie gives us great choreography, really great angles where you can see the action, appreciate the action, but like really great dynamic poses and full-blown R-rated action that's pretty goddamn intense at times. And not to worry, if you're a fan of the original The Accountant from 2016, all the old faces are back. Ray King is back. Mary Beth Medina is back. It's J.K. Simmons as well as Cynthia Ade Robinson. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. And there are one or two new faces to throw a few curveballs into the mix, but the most important returning face, I think, might be the writer, and I'm sure I'm gonna butcher his last name, Bill Dubuque or Dubuque, anyway, Dubuque. I have no idea how he pronounces his name, but as I was watching The Accountant and The Accountant 2, it's so well written and the characters so well defined and the storylines are so satisfying. I just assumed they must be based on a series of books, whether it's like a Tom Clancy series or any series that you care to mention, like The Terminal List or Reacher, just kind of like those macho, tough guy novels that you see on the rack at the airport. And sometimes you pick them up and sometimes you don't. But this is an original creation. High five to Bill, I'm not going to say his last name again, but high five to Bill for creating original characters, an original story, and finding a director to bring it to the screen, because I feel like the movie biz needs more original screenplays. And I keep threatening to make a video about my top 10 favorite original comedies, and my top 10 favorite original action movies, and top 10 favorite original whatever, but the original screenplay, I feel like even when movies were thriving in the 60s and 70s, more often than not, they were based on really cool books and that sort of thing. But I think a great original screenplay is just a rare, wonderful, beautiful thing when a story's been written specifically for the screen, with the movie screen in mind, where like Taxi Driver, that is a story that was written for the screen, not based on a book and that sort of thing. And obviously, The Accountant has almost nothing in common with Taxi Driver, but I just have a lot of respect for people who can write an original story and get the fucking thing made with good actors and a good director. And Bill dips in and out of both movies as well as television. He's one of the writers on Ozark. I saw the first 3 seasons of Ozark, I think, and I felt like the show just kept kind of getting more and more ridiculous, and I got increasingly less and less interested. But the first season of Ozark kicked much ass. But I think when it comes to director Gavin O'Connor and director Bill Dubuque, or Bill Dubuque, however he says it, I think this might be my favorite movie that I've seen yet by either the director or the writer. This movie just kicks butt. I mean, I just had a big old smile on my face pretty much from start to finish, especially toward the end when, once again, heart without getting sentimental, which is tough to do. Most writers can't resist surrendering over into just the most nauseating kind of maudlin emotion. It's hard to give you chills and make you feel good while maintaining kind of your gritty masculinity, but somehow this movie pulls it off. And just to shower a little bit more praise on him, I think it all goes back to Jon Bernthal. Jon Bernthal gives this movie his all, where when his feelings are hurt by his big brother, he's just so raw and it all just comes pouring out. Or when he's pissed off and wanting to get in a fight, it's like, oh my God, there's the Punisher. He's ready to rip the whole world a brand new asshole. He's one of the few actors that's kind of come into prominence in the last 10 or 15 years where he's very convincing with these kind of rugged, tough guy characters. I feel like we have a lot of actors these days where they have great looking hair and great skin and poofy lips and that sort of thing, but you don't really believe them when they put on the body armor and pick up a gun. With Jon Bernthal, you're like, yeah, this guy's fucking scary. I believe it. But because he's making us crack up throughout the whole movie, you kind of forget, oh yeah, this guy's here to kill lots and lots of people. And sure enough, by the end of the movie, he does. If you're a fan of The Punisher or his role in The Walking Dead or wherever you might have seen Jon Bernthal in the past, let me just have a quick look at his IMDb profile because I don't want to overlook some of his major credits. All right, so here are a few of his movies over the last 10 or 15 years. Wolf of Wall Street, he was fantastic. Fury, he was fantastic. Obviously, he's great in Daredevil. He was good in The Amateur, which just came out last week. I mean, the movie, I don't think The Amateur is anywhere near as good as The Accountant Part 2, but Jon Bernthal was good. What else can I mention? Sorry, I had a brief burp there. Boom, boom, boom. Just scrolling down. Ford v. Ferrari. I forgot that he was in that, but he was good in that. Baby Driver. Holy shit. Yeah, he was fucking great as Griff and Baby Driver. Yeah, so he's got all kinds of good movies to his name and all kinds of good shows to his name. And Sicario, it's just the list just goes on and on and on. It was a small role in Sicario, but yeah, I have to admit it. I'm officially a Jon Bernthal fan where he's hell on wheels in action, but he can make me laugh, and he seems just like a really cool guy. And I saw him speak publicly publicly one time at the New York Comic Con before he had appeared as the Punisher on, I guess he first appeared as the Punisher, was it season 2 of Daredevil? I can't even remember. Wherever he first appeared, I believe it was season 2 of Daredevil. But he made this speech before all the assembled nerds that was so sincere and so moving, where he just got up there and was like, you know what, I just feel this enormous obligation to do the best that I can, where I see all these people out here who just have loved this character for decades, and all I want to do is do the character justice. I'm like, oh my God, like I wish more filmmakers and more actors had that attitude toward these franchises, where they just recognize that there are generations of fans and they just want to make them proud. But what's cool about The Accountant is that these are all new characters and they can do whatever the hell they want. And once again, I'm just going to sing the praises of everybody involved with this, that they've managed to build a brand new action franchise from nothing in the last 10 years. And it's good. And not only was the first movie good, the second movie was even better. And that's increasingly rare in these troubled times. But I've been ranting and raving quite a bit at this point without saying anything negative, apart from the fact that perhaps it's a little bit long. I mean, I didn't really notice the length, but any movie, once it's over 2 hours, it needs to earn that length in a big bad way. Perhaps they could have shaved a little bit off, but if I were to criticize the movie just a little bit more, I think perhaps with the character of Mary Beth Medina, they kind of did her a disservice, where because she is the Fed and she's the rule follower as opposed to the rule breaker, and because she's basically venturing outside the lines of the law to hire these two kind of crazy motherfuckers to help her solve a crime that she cannot solve. I guess I should just tell people what the premise is. And in broad strokes, from Wikipedia, it says, when someone close to her is killed by unknown assassins, Treasury agent Mary Beth Medina is forced to contact Christian Wolfe to solve the murder. With the help of his estranged but highly lethal brother Brax, Chris applies his brilliant mind and less than legal methods to piece together the unsolved puzzle. As they get closer to the truth, the trio draw the attention of some of the most ruthless killers alive, all intent on putting a stop to their search. So now that you know the basic framework for the story, you'll understand what I mean, where she's placed in a position where she's constantly having to tell these guys, oh, you can't do that. Like, you can't torture these bad guys, even if they've got blood on their hands, or you can't, hack into that person's computer because that's a big no-no.
I work for a government agency. I don't torture people.
You didn't.
And she ends up coming across like the world's most annoying substitute teacher who just shows up and is constantly telling everybody what to do and doesn't like when kids laugh and things like that. She falls into a certain stereotype. And luckily they do redeem the character over the course of the movie, where she does get to show some more interesting qualities. But for a large chunk of the movie, you're like, oh, this girl, when is someone going to kind of, put her in the hospital and get her out of the story because she's kind of killing my buzz. So that would be one very, very mild criticism that I would offer about the movie. And another criticism I might have would be that the main villains of the movie, they're about as generic and one note and predictable, and it's hard to imagine villains that have less personality than the villains in this movie. And they're scary, they indulge in child trafficking and murdering of children and all kinds of horrible stuff. But it's like they're just so bland and so utterly devoid of any charisma of any kind. Like, you don't even know their names, or it'd be hard to pinpoint any personality trait of any kind apart from just the pursuit of profit. But there is an additional party, a third party, and I got to be careful when it comes to spoilers. Once again, this movie doesn't come out for a week and a half. But there's a third party who is highly talented, highly skilled, but also has unusual gifts/weaknesses that are similar to that of the accountant. And that's an interesting curveball in the movie. And maybe I should just go into some very, very mild spoilers. 3, 2, 1, last warning. But all I'll say on that front is that they explore this phenomenon known as acquired savant syndrome, where due to a brain injury or a stroke or some major neurological event, like getting hit really hard in football or getting hit by a car, where somehow it unlocks certain abilities where suddenly you get good at chess or pick up a language that you've never learned before. There's a character in this movie with acquired savant syndrome who's really interesting, and they get a fascinating origin story that at one point I was like, wow, this might be the best scene of the movie. At least it would be the best scene of the movie, if not for my favorite scene of the movie, which is yet another mild spoiler. So once again, bail out now if you don't want a very mild spoiler about the peak of the movie, but it has nothing to do with the plot, so I don't even know if it is a spoiler. So a major component to the sequel, or the beating heart of the sequel, are Christian Wolfe's attempts at reconnecting with human beings. As you've seen in the trailer, he even goes to one of those kind of like dating parties or dating gatherings where everybody has to meet and greet with like 10 or 15 different people. And of course, he tries to find a way to make it, like he tries to apply his mathematical skills to it as opposed to just getting to know women and that sort of thing. But finally, at one point, when he and Braxton have been kind of arguing and pissing and moaning with each other for a big chunk of the movie, Braxton just has the great idea of, let's just go get drunk. Let's like forget all this other bullshit. Let's just go out. And they go to a bar that's pretty unusual for Los Angeles, but it's also in the trailer. But they basically go to this honky-tonk bar, and it's just like 5 or 6 minutes of pure movie-making joy where it has almost nothing to do with the plot of the movie or the story of the movie, but has everything to do with the emotions of the story. And it's got a ton of laughs. It's got a ton of sex appeal. There's one insanely beautiful girl in cutoff shorts and cowboy hat and the whole thing. You're like, woo, all right, like more of her, please. And we get some fights, and probably there's I guess the way the scene closes, I don't expect I'll laugh harder the rest of the year while watching the movie than I did at that moment. It was fucking priceless. I just screamed with joy, and I was not alone. So there it is. I'm going to recommend people go to the theater and slap down their $20 and their $25 to see The Accountant 2. I don't think I'll be steering you wrong, especially if you like the first movie, of course. Like, yeah. But the good news is, if you like the first movie, you're probably going to like the second one even more, which, when was the last time you saw a sequel where you liked it better than the original movie? And I know on this channel I spent the last couple of months talking all kinds of shit about the state of modern filmmaking. However, between Warfare last week and now The Accountant 2, and hopefully Sinners tomorrow night, some good stuff is out there in the theater. So I feel like if you're a movie lover and you like certain types of genre cinema, whether it's war movies or action movies or horror movies or whatever the case may be, we at least have some options right now, which puts a big giant smile on my face because I like going to the movies, but I like going to the movies even more if I've got something good to see. So that's all I'm going to say for now, because if I go any further, I'll definitely start divulging plot-specific details. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. More importantly, I hope everybody enjoys The Accountant Part 2. Definitely check it out when it comes out next week. But if you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.